Hi, friend.
Hi, friend. Are you ready
Ready for what?
to level up?
Okay, girl, let's get started. Hi, friends. This is just a disclaimer just to let you know that because we are in Ontario and there is a state lockdown, unfortunately, Raman and I have had to do our podcast virtually. So for the next few podcasts, we're having some technical audio issues because we are doing this virtual. So please bear with us as we try to figure out our soundboards through the next couple podcasts and try to get on the same audio tone. You may have to either at Alysha's voice have to put the volume up and at Raman's voice put the volume down. But thanks so much for tuning in and listening to us as always. We appreciate it. Friends, welcome to another episode of Level Up with Raman and Alysha.
Happy May, everyone.
Yeah, thanks for joining in on our April Girl Boss Month. Now that that's over, we're resuming back to just Raman and I for a little while.
This is a little transitional for us because we got so used to doing our podcast with people, which was amazing. Now we kind of have to get used to just being us again. So bear with us while we do this.
Yeah, but we do want to thank all of our strong women that we had on last month. Thanks for joining us and being on
Our April Girl Boss podcasts.
yeah.
I know, right? This is transitioning, everyone. But we do have some exciting news. So we had such a great fun doing our April Girl Boss months that we didn't want this to be an only 1 month thing. So Alysha and I have decided to continue kind of having that little special part of the April Girl Boss month, but incorporating it into every month. So on the last episode of every month, we are going to be having a special girl boss every month to share with you guys.
Yeah, and if you'd like to be on our next month, end of month, definitely email us or message us on Instagram and we can definitely look into featuring you on there as well.
Absolutely. You don't have to be our friend to be on our
Yeah.
podcast. Don't be afraid. So just shoot us an email. But getting right into it, on today's episode, we're going to be talking about a question that me and Alysha get asked a lot by various people. What is more important when it comes to finding a job, education or experience? And we've Alysha and I have our recruiter experience and our HR experience, so people kind of always want to ask us, like, we've seen a lot of resumes, I would say.
Yeah, we
um,
had.
and it's been a little different for various professions, various topics, but when it comes down to it, if you had to choose one, Alysha, what would it be, education or experience?
See, I'd have to say it's a little bit of both depending on the job that you're applying for. So definitely, I guess we'll just jump right into this. So
Yeah.
I feel like, you know what, experience is so important, especially if you're someone in HR or you're in a job that needs to pursue hours of experience. So like articling when you're becoming a paralegal or a lawyer, HR is another one. But then you look at more traditional roles like doctors and you look at you know teachers and
Teachers, yeah.
you look at like business, like the business foundation. I feel like you need education to back you up along with experience. So, I know a lot of companies, especially corporate companies, are traditional and they do look into people's education when there's an entry level role opening up in the business side of corporate. So, whether it would be they're looking at new grads that are coming right out of MBA school. So, like, for example, here in Ontario, we have DeGroote University that focuses on MBA. So that's a huge
Mhm.
one here, Guelph, Queens. And so a lot of like CEOs or leadership teams are always looking at that. But they want to make sure you're also a people person. So along with that, you need to carry
Mhm.
that people experience, be empathetic, have your emotional intelligence, and be self aware too. And I think that it's how you carry yourself and, um, yeah. But I like when it's a teacher role or it's a more professional role in that sense that you need education to back you up, then definitely you need the 2 pages on your resume indicating what you've done. Maybe if you've done internships or you needed to show co-op and that kind of hours that have been put in, then 100%. But otherwise, I do think for like our roles, HR, it's more experience. So what if you were being hired as an admin, or you're being hired as a law clerk, or a receptionist, we're going to look at experience for sure, because we want to see how many
Mhm.
years have you had on the computer talking to customers, customer service roles. So it really depends on the role itself, and the only way you'll really know that is definitely asking people, and also doing your research of how long it is to get through that linear of that career. So going by step, because a lot of increments are either broken down by 5 to 10 to 15 years, or maybe it's a
Mhm.
few months of experience. What's your thoughts on it, Raman?
I definitely agree with you that some professions, it's a requirement, right? Like education is a requirement. You're not going to become a lawyer without, I think there's like a legal issue with that, probably is. Like you legally, I only know this because of Suits, because he pretended to be a lawyer.
Yeah.
So, like, there's professions like law and teacher where you do need, like doctors, that you do need that proof of education to even get started with an entry level job. Um, so 100% there. And even with those types of jobs, there's so many unfortunately, like so many loopholes and stuff that they have to jump through to even get their entry level. Like doctors have to do their like residency, lawyers have to do their articling, teachers have to do like their substitution or a certain amount of hours that they do in classroom. So those types of roles kind of like, I feel like, and correct me if I'm wrong, let me know what you think about this. The roles that do require education, like those types of roles, do kind of also build you up to prepare you for your future. Because if you've done your articling, like what reason do you have not to be able to get an entry level job? It has prepared you for it. You doing your residency has prepared you for your doctor, your entry level job, and so forth with teacher. But jobs that you mentioned that we might look at experience more, like HR, admin, business, marketing, sales, stuff like that, we might look at experience more because you don't, although education is absolutely great. I recommend everybody go to school, experience it, even though a lot of people don't end up going into the career path that they end up going to school for. Go through it, experience it. Education is wonderful. But at the end of the day, don't let it think that just because you have this like 4-year degree, you're better than the person that has been working for 4 years in that field. Because reality is, and I tell this with like all my friends that have like entry level jobs, and it does suck to say this, but we have to be truthful for them and be like, you're probably like not going to get like, or you're too underqualified for this job. Because I know when I was a full-time recruiter, if I had two resumes in front of me, and for those of you, like the recruiter is kind of like the middle person who's going to kind of and I was at an agency, so the middle person who's going to present this person to the client, I'm not going to present somebody who has no experience to my client, right? Which is as bad as it is. It's the reason they are coming to the recruiter is because they need somebody who's qualified, experienced, can do that work and bring them that right person rather than bring them an entry level person. But you mentioned something really great, which is a lot of corporate companies now have like these programs, and I've had it not in my current job but in a past job, which they have these programs where they're specifically looking for people out of school. So there are companies like that, and they are targeting students that are coming out of school, or they're like specifically in there. I wish I knew this in university, that like there was, by the time I found out about it, it was like only third year students could do this type of like internship. So everyone pay attention to what year you can do this internship, because it might help you out later. But corporate companies do have these specific programs, and that's going to help take advantage of those opportunities, because those are going to help leverage you getting your foot through the door, right?
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And, along with paying attention to school counselors and the career center while you're going throughout school to see what other opportunities you can get to get your foot in the door. There's a lot of summer co-op programs if you're still in school that are available at high-end corporate companies. But more so even, I feel like people forget that when we're looking at your resume, and if that's, some of us have done part-time jobs to get through school, or, you take a year off and you're just working for the sake of making a paycheck, try to make those decisions of which corporations you're going into, whether it's an hourly job or salary minimum wage job. Make sure it's something that represents well, like it's a good organization. I
Mhm.
was always raised with the fact to know that if you work for the bigger names, the more it will be attracted when someone is looking at your resume. And I couldn't
Mhm.
find that more truer in the day of today's day and age, especially when I'm looking at resumes. Now I'm in the medical field, so I'm looking at anything related to medical field or food industry. But
Mhm.
otherwise, like I always went for the big names. So Walmart, Superstore as a 16-year-old kid, because that's what made sense.
Yeah.
And my mom always put that in my head. She was always like, it's the big corporations that when someone is screening you, they're going to notice that and be like, okay, she worked for a good organization. And it doesn't matter if it's just an hourly role. The point is you're representing that organization and they wanted you to be part of their team. So always
Mhm.
keep that in mind too when you're applying for jobs, even if it's just an hourly role. And I think the other important thing is that we see that I know, and I'm sure Raman, you've noticed this, and I'm noticing so much in everyday today age because we're still recruiting so much, is the younger generation that is coming out of school. You really want to be smart with your decisions that you're making. So I find that, I had a scenario, and I'll give you an example. I
I
had
can't
a
wait to
young
hear this.
I had a young, really brilliant young student come out of doing her, MBA, and she was doing marketing and digital marketing. And, young and passionate, really great candidate. She was going up for one of our roles, and what she ended up choosing so she had the opportunity with us. We went through the entire interview process with her up to the time to meet even with the CEO president.
Mhm.
Well, she turns around and rejects our offer letter because she chose to stick with her family business. And to me, as a recruiter, and Raman, tell me if I'm wrong, if you would not see it this way. If I were to look at your resume 5 years down the road when you are now trying to go back into the work field, and I seen that your last name is connected with your family business, and that's the job you worked for 4 years straight out of school, that's a red flag to me, because it's like, so were you just handed this job because you were entitled to it? You didn't really go out to go work hard enough to get another job and grow that experience either. So that's another thing that I like noticed. And I don't know what you think about that, but I think that's a big
I
no
think I
no.
would question the validity and the credibility of that job. Like I would question, like, did you really work as a marketing associate for 5 years, or were you a quote marketing associate for 5 years, but you just kind of helped out in the family business? So I do think I would question it a little bit. And yeah, that's a little tough, right? Because and we do see those type of people. I've seen people quit jobs to say they're going to pursue their personal career, or I've seen like people write on their cover letters that they had left. Like a cover letter is great if you're trying to explain job gaps. So that's actually perfect, guys. Like put a cover letter if you do have like changes in employment or big gaps, or you're changing like industries or something like
Yeah.
that to explain. Did she have a
Or
cover letter, by the way? Did she
no,
explain?
she didn't.
Okay.
And I think also, yeah, that is important to what you're saying. A cover letter is really important, especially if you've done that extensive experience in your career and you know you needed all the steps to get where you are, whether you're going to project management or a manager position in HR or whatever it may
Mhm.
be. I feel like that's super important. And that's where you can really go in depth of detail of your positions and, how you moved yourself up the ladder too. But also, I want to touch point on, along with entry roles and interviews, is that I'm finding, and I'm not hating on Generation Z or Z or whatever it is right now, but I'm just really shocked because, my group of friends and all of us, we are pretty well rounded. That I need to say, like, I feel like if I put you guys in an interview room, you would do so well. You know what I mean? Like, if you look at our friend group, and I think it's because they have the self awareness as well. But I'm finding the more I interview the younger generation, the more I worry because, you know, I'm noticing that they don't have that same sensible, like, idea
Like,
of how to carry a professional interview out, and to be
hmm,
aware of like their words and be aware of who they're speaking to. And and that's the part that scares me. So like, if I tell you your next step of interview process is with, like, let's say a leadership team member, or a director, I
hmm,
expect you to be on your game, because now you're
yeah,
on your second or third interview with this individual who is much higher in the organization, and they're most likely going to make the decision whether you get the job or not. I don't expect you to sound tired, or say you are tired, or even like, act like this is a drag to do.
yeah.
And it you would
And that's like, even if you have experience, you can't do that, right?
Yeah, because
Yeah,
then at the end of the day, anybody can put anything on paper, but it's you who's the 50% that has to carry through what you've written on paper, whether it's a cover letter or resume, but it's your personality and words that is
yeah.
what going to get you the job. Let's be honest.
Do you think people are too, like, with the same idea that, people think, okay, because I have a 4-year university degree, like I'm all that. But, I feel like maybe that is a misconception, that maybe some of these, like, people out of students out of high school, not high school, oh my God, school coming
University.
out. Do you think that's what they feel? Because I feel like I get those vibes too, that they think like, okay, I have this like university degree, and then I feel like reality hits them like a bus after, because then it's like, no, it's also about experience. It's not just about. But do you feel like they feel overconfident, like in themselves?
Yeah, I do. I feel like they think they're entitled because they went through university or their MBA program, and they think they're the shit. But to speak to that, I think experience is more than just your work experience. It's also your people skills experience, which is important.
Mhm.
So really
Yes.
throughout school years and job shadowing, like if you're going to go become a charter accountant, you don't really need to talk to people. You don't need people skills. That's
Hmm.
fine. If you're more of an introvert, then that role suits you. But if you're going to sales and customer or marketing or HR, for
Hmm.
example, you need to be able to be a people person, because if you're not, then that's not the role for you. And you're going to
Yeah.
be managing people or working with others and working within a team. Then I think it's really important to build those skills, whether it's going to camp, team building skills. And one
Hmm.
huge thing that I don't know about you, Raman, but I notice on people's resumes, especially out of school, is if they were part of a team. So if they were part of a volleyball team or they were part of a basketball team, sports is such a huge indicator as like, okay, they can work in a team, or they managed that team, or they were the leader, or they were the captain. That is such a huge, huge thing. And I'm not going to even lie. I've actually hired someone based off the fact that they were a volleyball captain, but had no work
Oh,
experience in their field. But
who was
just
the
that,
did they have competition? Did that person have like,
yeah.
oh,
And he was very well rounded, but he was also very passionate, honest, and transparent.
hmm,
And I respected him for it. He even came out and said, like, I don't have the experience, but I am willing to work just as hard to learn it and move to wherever I have to go to become that person you need. And that's what indicated to me, yeah, I could see that on his resume. Like he was applying for a marketing role, but he worked, cutting grass in the summer.
oh,
But then he was a
okay,
volleyball captain coach as well. And I was like, well, he knows how to work in a team. He understands hard work. He put himself through school.
yeah,
And that's a huge thing. That was everything I got based off an interview. So sometimes I know we may be scared to say too much on an interview, but depending
mhm.
on the person you're interviewing with, sometimes it doesn't hurt to be a little honest and really tell them where your heart is at, of why you want this position, and really not the traditional answers, but more so from the heart if you really need to.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially big corporations, they're looking for that transparency. Big corporations, they're not just looking for experience or education, they're looking for a company fit. Like, smaller companies might see people kind of come and go a bit more quicker. But with larger corporations, they're looking for, sorry, they're looking for people who are going to stick not in their just current job, they're also looking for someone who can move on to the next role. So Alysha, you kind of like brought up a really good topic right there. Like you had somebody that, did not have any experience at all, but still got the job because of other factors. So what about people who are coming right out of school, like university or college, have zero experience, and they're wondering, like, okay, now I have zero experience. All I have my is education. You guys are telling me that I can't get a job with just my education. Like, what are some of the things that those individuals can do to make sure that they kind of like set themselves up for success versus kind of like, now they're out of school and now they're trying to get experience and stuff like that?
I think, I feel like this conversation is not to scare you. And if you are one of those people that are coming out of school with no job experience, don't be afraid. But also, now it does mean you got to push yourself, because when you will be in an interview room, you need to remember there's going to be other candidates that are not in the same boat as you, that their experience might trump you or their people skills might trump you. So if you
Mhm.
are an introvert, let's start there. Let's start with the people skill part. Go and start taking seminars, start taking workshops online. There's so many available that are free.
I
Start
love that.
putting yourself up as, leading something, teaching English to some ESL
Mhm.
students, even online for free. Do something that gets you out of your comfort zone to really be able to present in front of people, because that's the only way we can come out of our little shells. The other thing is, sometimes you may not be able to get paid to get that experience
Mhm.
either. So go job shadow people, start volunteering, be that co-op position if you can. But a lot of co-ops in job placements are offering an hourly rate. If you can't, work a few hours a week and also get paid at a part-time job still, so you can still make some
Mhm.
income. What
Yeah.
else do you suggest, Raman?
I'm a prime example of the last point that you made about like the whole internship thing. So I have mentioned it on our other podcast before as well, that when coming out of school, I was offered like this unpaid internship, and at the time I didn't even have a part-time job. So I was like, why not go in and at least work here so then I can put it on my resume, right? I honestly did not think that I was even gonna be there for longer than a couple of weeks. Um, and originally, I remember when they started, they asked me, like, can you come in like 3 days a week or something? And I was like, yeah. But I went in 5 days a week, full days, like 8:30 to 5. Worked with everyone like a full-time employee as well, showed my commitment. And 4 weeks later, they did hire me. And you know what? It was now when I think about it, it was like really low pay. But, it's sometimes like when you're starting off, it's not about the money. Like, don't think that, okay, I need a paying job as my first job out of school. A big believer in internship volunteers. Having that, like even a couple of months of unpaid internship on your resume as a work experience will literally now you're in a position where you're ahead of the person who just has education. Now you have education and you have experience.
Hi, friends. Raman and I just wanted to let you guys know about this app that we use. It's called Anchor. It's the easiest way to make a podcast. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer.
Yes, and it can be heard on all the main platforms and uploaded on them directly, such as Spotify, Apple Podcast, and many more. And you can start making money on Anchor right away.
Yeah, it's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to
Anchor.fm to get started.
Have a great week. Bye.
While you're in school, like we mentioned, there are like those associations with other corporate companies to do internships and co-op positions. I was like really late. I checked in my fourth year and then found out it was a third year. I don't know, you have to be in a specific year to do this internship. So those are things you can check in your first year. And you know what, I have to admit, there isn't a lot of guidance when you go into university. Like, I had zero guidance, guys. I didn't even know what a GPA was when I started. So don't feel bad if you don't know about all these things, because we didn't either, right?
Yeah.
But like if you are someone younger and starting off, like jump to the gun right away. See like at what year are you eligible to do co-op? Can you do internships? When I finished school, I also one of my professors just said like they're doing some sort of case study and they needed like student volunteers to help. This one was paid, but just like a little part-time thing. And I took that opportunity and I'm like, that's experience on my resume. And you know what, it's going to be under York University, so I was like, I can put that on my resume, that I worked with a professor. They don't need to know all the details of the irrelevance of it, but like what you said, sometimes having that name on your resume is going to go a really long way. But definitely volunteering, even like having a coach or a mentor to kind of guide you through, some of the steps that maybe they took. Like, we're hoping to be those guides and mentors for you all as well. But a lot of options in university. I don't know if you ever went to those career fairs, Alysha. I didn't find them that useful, but schools do have career fairs. I'm sure they're hiring somebody. It can't be like they didn't hire us, but they can't be not hiring anybody.
Yeah, no, I didn't find them useful at all. And,
Yeah,
I
but I
find
still
that,
went,
yeah,
just to see.
yeah, just to see what your options are. You got to reach as many possibilities as you can. And what may not have been useful to Raman or I may be useful to you. Maybe they've changed something, especially after we come out of this pandemic. I'm sure there's a lot more online. So how much easier can it get for you guys out there right now? Because you have it all available at your fingertips, as opposed to when pre-pandemic, I'm sure everyone had to go to these events and make the time in their calendars to really show up. So I think you're very fortunate if you're in this time phase. I know everyone's looking at the pandemic as like something that's not great, but I feel like there's so many great things because there's so many online courses, online webinars, online seminars. Um, we've talked about Clubhouse before. Clubhouse is another great platform for even reaching out to youth groups or groups that may be in the same age group. You can even go into Clubhouse, like Clubhouse should sponsor us, but you
I
can
know,
even go
right?
into Clubhouse and you can even type in the specificness of like a career you're looking into. So for example, real estate. You can type in real estate and there are a million like chat rooms or groups that are part of it, like across North America right now.
Mhm.
And I'm sure it's globally as well. But I find that so cool that now you can reach and talk to other people and ask them their opinions. I think another thing that I'm surprised Raman didn't mention, which is her favorite out,
LinkedIn.
yeah, is
As
LinkedIn.
you were talking, I was like, oh my God, I just thought of an idea.
Yeah, go ahead and share that idea before you
Okay,
forget.
since it's my favorite. Um, Honestly, so and I think me and Alicia go through the same thing with LinkedIn, because like we're in the HR field. I get like a million messages from people saying, I'm looking just, and it's simply because they see recruitment like on my title or something like that, which is completely okay. I just feel bad because I can't really do anything for them.
Yeah,
Um, but it's definitely a good way to network. I just thought of like kind of an idea, like if you ever have a company that you're trying to pursue or a certain like mentor or coach that you look up to, you can actually look up those companies, look up the people that work under it, and you can offer like to job shadow. Like if you can job shadow and maybe help, even be like an assistant and be like, I don't need to do the like I'm looking like, even sending someone a simple message such as like I would send something like, hi, I'm a newly grad student. I'm looking for experience. I don't have any like real hand experience yet, but I'm willing to learn. I'm willing to job shadow for free and help you out with any tasks that you need to just and in return, I'm just looking for some experience and some knowledge. That could go a long way too. I've never tried it, but I just thought of it right now. And I feel like it is something I would try doing, because you would be surprised at like the response that you might get. And the amount of people that might want free help. So you'd be surprised.
yeah, I definitely agree with you on that. So
And
there's,
networking, right? Just
oh
like
yeah,
networking, getting to know people. Even like that person might not be like um
in your
they might
field.
not say like I can help you, but maybe this is what you can do. This is how I got started. Like if someone were to help me, I would like, or if someone were to ask me, I would give them that same advice, right? Like, hey, like look for any free internships, because the paid internships are harder to get. The unpaid ones are a bit easier to get. Hi, Rocky. Um, It is really sad, Alicia. I did experience something at my last company. And guys, just a heads up, like some companies do an education verification. And I've only been at like one or two companies that did do that. The rest of them usually just do like a criminal background check. But there are some companies that will do an education verification. So don't lie about your education because that might backfire. But I did have a case where somebody, it was actually a marketing position as well. Um, and this lady had impeccable experience, years and years of experience, like 15 years. She was going to get like a higher up position, but then her background check didn't come back clear. And, I asked her, I was like, is there like any discrepancy, blah, blah, blah. And she kind of like went around in circles for a bit, and then something just was not adding up. And then I told the talent acquisition manager, and then you know what, like then she did straight up telling us like, oh, she didn't finish her last course or something, so she didn't technically graduate. And I remember the talent acquisition manager telling me that like she should have just told us, because she has so much experience under her belt that we're not going to discredit her just because she doesn't like have her education. She has more experience than her education can ever give her. But it was like, it kind of left that sour taste in the mouth now, because it was like, why did you lie about your education? You should have just been straightforward about it. And I feel like that's the tough thing. But like, for people do need to understand that if you have the experience, don't don't worry about like not having the education part of it, because depending on what job it is, like obviously you can't become a lawyer or a doctor or anything without education, but there are going to be jobs that your experience is going to go a long way, right?
I have to agree with you on that. Don't lie, even if it is just one course. It's better to be transparent because they're most likely to be more understanding if it's a couple courses left and you're not done. Companies, just because they do write it on their job description that you need to have a bachelor's degree or whatever it may be, it's not always the case scenario, because once again, that's where experience can trump someone's education, and that's a good example. If it's just a bachelor degree in nothing specific, then yeah, definitely, or you have a college diploma, or you took some university courses but didn't do a degree. That's all acceptable. But just be transparent about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, overall, I would say that try to get some experience, even if it's a little bit. Um, I think I was reading, and the average time that a recruiter spends on a resume is like 5 seconds.
Yeah,
Like
I
literally five
spend
seconds.
like literally maybe 8 seconds.
Yeah, even 8 is a lot.
Yeah.
This is a hard truth reality, everybody. We spend 5 seconds on a resume. This is how it's going to go. Your resume is going to open. We're not looking at that little summary of qualifications. We're not looking at your education. The first thing I'm going to is experience, and then I will go to education.
Yeah. And, I don't know if you're applying on some websites like Indeed too. Sometimes employers, and like we do at our current organization, we break down those questions, like the skills asset questions in Indeed. And sometimes people are like, oh, I really don't need to fill that out. No, you do, because that's also an indicator. Like they'll ask you, how many experience do you have in, let's say, marketing? And their minimum is like 2 years. Or even if it's like a warehouse job like forklift, do you have a
Yeah.
forklift license? Those kind of things. That's the first thing they're going to indicate, because Indeed actually organizes it from the background that, like, okay, if people said yes to all your questions, then you're going to get like pushed up to the top for me to look at. But if you only
Oh,
answer 1 out of 2, we're not looking at the rest, because it's like, oh, you didn't meet all the qualifications. And if you didn't answer any of the questions, then you don't even get shown on the main list. You actually have to keep scrolling down to the very bottom, and it says other applicants.
Oh, okay. Big tip here, everyone.
Yeah.
Big tip, because I just learned that as well. I didn't. Okay, so that explains, like, guys, I've been there. I've done I don't care about filling out this thing. My job experience is going to triumph but that makes sense why they never called me back. I
So
probably like didn't even make it to the top of the list, but that makes sense, because it's like, why would you look at the people who didn't even answer?
exactly. Yeah. because then it's most likely you have people, especially when you're going through a pandemic, everyone's looking for a job. So you just have a bunch of people just applying to jobs that don't even
Yeah,
match their job experience or what they're looking for.
that's
And
true.
you can tell right away. So that's the other thing. People, and like, guys, if someone calls you back and says, "Oh, you applied for this job," I always say, write down what jobs you've applied for. So when someone does call back and you go, "Huh?" or you go, "Oh, can you send me the job description?" No, that's
Oh,
big no to me and a huge red flag. Do not ever do that. Write down the jobs you applied for, and also you'll see it in your email, because most likely Workopolis or whatever the website you're using will send you an email saying you applied to this job. So pay attention, guys.
yeah, just go with it. Like, just
Yeah,
like go with it and be like, yeah, can you send me an email confirmation of the time and place of our interview? And then you will find out who, where the hell you applied.
yeah,
And
you'll
then you
see
could
the
like search up
company.
your sent emails or something and see which one you apply to. That's so smart.
Yeah,
Yeah,
common sense, guys.
I agree with that. That's a pet peeve of mine too. Like, then it's like, hi, you applied to this job. Sorry, which job is this again?
Yeah, and
Oh,
it's like,
sorry,
what?
mine wasn't important enough for you.
Yeah, you, and then that indicates, oh, you've been applying to all the jobs, that you don't really have any standards for yourself either, or you're not really passionate about the organization itself.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, yeah. So, I mean, for me, I would say final words are like,
Mm.
I don't want to pick one, but I would say experience is like super important, and it's going to get you. I know a lot of people who didn't even like go to school and they're in like really high up positions just because of their experience, and not necessarily job experience, but what like Alysha mentioned, kind of having those extracurricular, even if it's under your volunteer or hobbies, even hobbies. If you have a hobby that is relatable to your, okay, I actually hate the hobbies section of the resume. If you're applying for a professional job, like I would never recommend putting that section on your resume. However, like say for example, you like have a relatable, like say if you're like accounting and for whatever reason your hobby is like something relatable to accounting, or like you have like a general knowledge and experience and like um enthusiasm for it, then I would definitely put it on your resume or your cover letter. So it's like, I don't have this experience, but I am like highly enthusiastic about this topic, and I do this in my spare time, and I have like taken these extra courses to kind of learn or educate myself. Guys, YouTube is free. Like
Yeah, exactly. And everything's on there.
like I hear so many people say like I'm so bad at Excel, but like guys, YouTube is free. You can
Yeah,
literally look up any formula you need to. You like or look up anything you need to do in Excel. So you can don't ever say you're a beginner in Excel. You can say you're intermediate. Like you don't have to say
mhm.
you're advanced, but you could say you're intermediate.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree with Raman. And you can Google anything, guys. Don't forget that.
Absolutely. Do you have some final say, Alicia?
I have to agree with you. Experience definitely trumps it, especially I think in the world that you and I both are in. We would definitely go towards experience over education. Mind you, if I was a doctor or anything else, then I would probably say something different. But based off of working and being through jobs, it's the norm of not having to be part of a company for 5 to 10 years anymore, to say, oh, I'm very reputable, I'm very loyal, I've been with this company for many, many years now. I feel like it's actually frowned upon now. People actually more look at people who are moving, because it kind of we kind of look at and question, why didn't you want more for yourself, or why didn't you want to grow or challenge yourself? Were you just too comfortable? Mind you,
Mhm.
that may not always be the reason. You may really like the organization you work for. Their bonuses could be really good. The stock could be really good. It could be anything. But keep that in mind too. You don't need to just find one company and stick with it either. I feel like that traditional rule needs to go out the
Mhm.
door. I think 2 years minimum is the rule to like stay within an organization before you move. If you're moving less than 2 years, then that may be an issue too. So you
Yeah.
got to find
Or
some.
I would say I'm just gonna like contradict a little bit to that one. I
Mhm.
would say 2 years in a role.
Yeah.
So you can move up in the same organization. So say like you started off like as an intern, you moved to like an associate, then you move to like senior, and then you move to like manager, like, or whatever the case is, whatever the flow of the movement is. I
Yeah.
feel like that's good to see every 2 years because it shows that you are growing and you're moving up. But yeah, like if you've been in the same role for 10 years and now you're like, I want a senior position, it's like, why didn't you do this earlier?
Yeah, for
Right?
sure.
Like in the same company too. Like, why did you have that
Exactly.
same job in the same company for 10 years? Yeah.
And I think even speaking to our experience, we've gone from company to company, but it's also because within human resources, there's always ever evolving, like, systems, HRIS systems, payroll, policies stay the same, taxes and fundamental things stay the same, but it's the experience of learning different organizations and cultures,
Mhm.
and especially the systems. So without having to take any courses, that's another way to get through of experiencing people's systems is
Mhm.
going to different organizations too.
Yeah, absolutely. Alicia and I, like at our organization that we met at, the job that we were hired for, we like, we did that for what, like 6 months? I
Yeah,
don't know.
literally 6 months. And then Raman and
So
I
we,
got moved up right away.
yeah, and they were changing their processes, their systems, and then all of the sudden they were like, "Okay, now we want you to do payroll." And I remember us like being like, "We don't want to do payroll." But then
Yeah.
I remember us saying like, "But you know what? Like this is an opportunity to learn payroll for free. Not for free. I mean like but I mean like without having to go apply for a payroll job and like being like
Or
I have no experience. It was they were giving us that opportunity already while we were in the job. So we were like, yeah, why not just learn it? And you know what? It went like such far lengths.
yeah, it did. It really, really did.
That went such a long way. So definitely if your current organization is giving you an opportunity to learn new skills, take it. And I know a lot of us do get comfortable in what we're doing and what the other like job or skill might not be like as enthusiastic to us. You're adding to your skill set, right? You're adding to that job experience. And although it might not benefit your current job, it might help lead you to your next job. So always continue to also get experience and grow your experience. Don't remain in that same bubble. We're not living in a generation where people want kind of someone who's like just wants doesn't want to grow and wants to stay in that current job forever. So do continuously, learn, and you can always continuously educate too. I mean, I know Alicia and I were like our previous bosses used to tell us like go get this, go piece, I don't even remember the names anymore, PCA or
CPA,
CPA.
PCA, yeah. Guys, it's never too late to definitely, that's a very good point, Raman. It's never too late. And we will do another podcast on this, on
Yeah,
should you go back to school at any age. But
yeah,
it's never too late.
it's never too late. Thank you everyone for listening to this. Hopefully we didn't scare all of you guys.
Yeah. Take this
um,
with a grain of salt.
we say this with complete truth. It's not always easy to hear, but the reality is that people don't look at your resume for too long. So make sure what you are putting on your resume is. And I think, you know what, Alicia, you and I should do a podcast about resume and interview prep because we do have a lot of advice that we can give to everyone
Oh,
for that
yeah.
as well. So we will do another podcast on that. But yeah, thank you for everyone to listening to our first May podcast of just
Yeah.
me and Alicia. And if you have any questions, Alicia and I are very, helpful when it comes to like resume, interview prep, what you should or should not do. Feel free to email us at ramanandalicia.com. Ramanandalicia at gmail.com. Oh my God, I forgot the Gmail.
Have a great week, everyone.
Thank you. And don't forget to follow us on our Instagram and our YouTube page at Level Up with Raman and Alicia. Bye, everyone.
Bye.